Hi, Robyn. I'm so excited to have you on this YouTube channel. Robyn is a HeartMath practitioner, and I just want to hear more about HeartMath and what HeartMath is and what you do. So please share.
Thanks, Adina. My name is Robyn. It's great to be here and great to be talking to you. So I'm a heart math coach, and I basically work with heart math science and strategies to help people who overthink and overthink and overthink and overthink.
What is HeartMath? Like when I hear of HeartMath, I think of like doing algebra, like on like someone's heart. Like what is that?
Well, they're basically a for-profit and a not-for-profit company that's been around since the early 90s, and they've done so much research on the heart that it's so much more than just a blood pumping organ. So there's actually just an electromagnetic field, and that we, energetically there's so much there that supports who we are, and is such an important and integral part in our health, spiritual health, emotional health, mental health, and physical health.
Wait, so you're saying the heart is not just a blood pumping organ, it actually has a spiritual and emotional significance? This is new.
I know, it's so much more. And then once you realize that, you start listening to all those songs and expressions, right? Follow your heart, listen to your heart. I don't know, all those songs, all those expressions that bring up the heart.
Wow. Okay, so HeartMath is actually an organization. It's not something you created.
No, I'm a trained professional, and employ their work, and you're allowed to integrate it into your practice or whatever you do. So I'm a holistic coach, and I use HeartMath as a template to work with high achieving, successful people who overthink.
Okay, overthink and have, I guess, trouble getting into that feeling heart space.
Because when our thinking center is the brain and our feeling center is the heart, and oftentimes people who carry on in these states of overthinking, they're so high achieving, but need to be reminded through practice and understanding emotions that really, when we know how we're feeling and have a sense of it, then we can understand our repetitive thoughts. So we learn about how the heart can, and the heart rate variability with that, which is actually, our heart is supposed to vary. Our heart rate is supposed to vary. That's a very normal function of a healthy heart. But we want the heart rate variability to be within the range of emotions that are more ease, gratitude, anything uplifting, as
Mm.
opposed to a heart rate that is variable within emotions of fear, worry, frustration, anxiety. And when we're sustaining those emotions, physiologically, we're in states of fight or flight more and more. And that's actually what triggers all this
Mm.
anxiety and repetitive thinking. And so my clients and I, when we work together, we really start to understand, like, well, what are you thinking about this? And let's see if we can understand it, of what we're feeling about it, and really
Mm.
practice.
So you're saying, just to clarify,
Yeah,
when we're trained as kids, when we're educated, it sounds like we're educated on an intellectual level. So
we
much,
really,
and then we get stuck on that intellectual level, and then you're teaching people how to get back down into the feeling level. And what you're saying is that if people are trained starting from the feeling level, instead of asking yourself, what do you think about this? What do you think about this job? What do you think about this opportunity? You've asked people what they feel about it. Then they can start understanding their mind better. Almost like, yeah, is that?
yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And I think, just to kind of catch on what you were saying in terms of how we live our life, especially with the integration of technology, again, nothing is bad. It's who's behind it or who's using it that makes the choices and the decisions, right? So everything can be used for negative or positive reasons. So it's not that everything we do is so bad. But to your point about education and little kids, and I'm a mom of a young son, if they're always on their technology and they're not just like outside exploring or being in their body, then they're not problem solving. They're not really connected to, kind of like, why do I feel this way? Or like, why didn't I like that? Or why, what is this feeling that's coming up? And I think when we stay in our minds, I think we've kind of been conditioned that staying in a thought state is safe. And then we kind of present ourselves inauthentically. which isn't a bad thing. But what happens is when we are really like truly understanding what our feelings are, like if we're feeling gratitude, then how we're expressing ourselves is true. And it improves communication and how we interact and relate in the world.
So would you say that our true authenticity, who we really are, is really what our feelings show?
I think who we really are is what our thoughts and feelings are the same.
Can you give an example of that?
If somebody is saying I love you to you, you know they mean it or you don't. Here's an example for any parent out there or anybody who has a good friend. Here's another classic one. Somebody you know is going through something. It's like they're having a hard time. You just know they're having a hard time. So you say, are you okay? And they say to you, yeah, I'm fine. And you're like, no, you're not. It's that where the words are telling a different story than the feeling, but you're reading the feeling. And not even that you know what's going on in their life. It's just you've picked up on the fact that they're so not fine that energetically your heart is receiving and doing the communicating, right? But your brain is going, well, this person said they're fine. You said you're fine, but I don't think you're fine. So we're receiving and communicating in a way that's disconnected. It's
So it's
causing a lot of
disconnected.
confusion.
So basically, we're in this society where I guess it's normalized that people are not saying what they really feel.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So that overthinker has learned at some point in his or her life that if I rationalize this, or I'm hyper vigilant about this, or I'm just perfect, right? I have the perfect solution. I can get through the business meeting. I can get through that first date, whatever it is, they've conditioned themselves to stay in their thinking brain, their
But it's
mind.
not actually how they feel. Like they would say,
They've
someone
cut
like
it off. They've pulled the plug on that, right? So we
oh,
plug back in and we say, oh, I have these racing thoughts because I'm so worried. Oh, that's the feeling.
okay. Okay. So someone who is cut off from their heart would basically do a meeting, say, "Oh, it was great. It's a great meeting," and they would really feel like it was terrible.
Yes. And here's another example. Some words are feeling words, in my opinion, and some are thinking words. So for somebody who, and I try this to embody this as a parent, right? If I say to my son, I'm concerned about you, that's a little bit of a thinking word. I want to say, I really care about you. And so if something's going on with him and I'm coming from a place of concern, I might be trying to control the situation so my brain feels better about the outcome. But if I'm genuinely coming from a place of care, I might approach the situation from a more wisdom space, right? The more of a sage representation of like bird's eye view, right? I'm in my body, I'm grounded enough to feel ease about the situation that I don't need to control it and say like, what's the matter? As opposed to don't do that. So there's relational differences in terms of how we communicate and how we show up in the world, whether it's as a mom or a dad or a friend or intimate relationship or a teacher or in the professional world, where when we are embodied and when our mind is aligned, our thinking is aligned with our feelings, we show up authentically.
So if a person continues to show up inauthentically, if a person continues to navigate their life just through their head and with no connection to their feeling, what ends up happening to them?
You're
What
in a state of dis-ease as
uh,
opposed to a state of ease.
mm,
What happens is usually people get to this place where they want to improve their life because there's some kind of illness or something has
mm,
happened where they have to stop, right? So if there's physiological dissonance, you're
mm,
kind of like a few steps too late, right? You've bypassed the gut telling you, speaking to you. You've bypassed the like the urge to cry or yell or confront something. You've
mm,
just kind of suppressed and left
mm,
everything that's in your body that needs to
mm,
be communicated stay in
mm,
your body, and you kind of
mm,
moved into your mind. So
mm,
in time you become disconnected, right? There's
mm.
disassociation, and that includes your interoception skills. So there's so much in terms of coordination neurologically, and this work, not to go on a tangent, but this work you can create new neural pathways, you can create
Mm,
new systems, new brain connections that
mm,
shift and heal you.
yeah. So would you say two things? Would you say overthinking is a bypass, is like an avoidance of actually using your voice.
100%.
Wow. Okay. And would you also say that someone who's actually more connected with their heart and is authentically speaking what they feel is healthier? Because,
100%. I
wow.
mean, yeah, I mean, think of it this way. Even if you don't like someone, whether you like or not like someone, I'll speak for myself. Even if I disagree with somebody's stance on everything, if they know who they are and they show up in their authenticity and truth all the time, even if I have no idea what they're talking about, I will feel safe around that person. I will trust that person, and I will be able to have a relationship with that person and understand that they just think differently than me, but they're so who they are that you get them, and there's no fear there.
There's no fear, right? I think you're right. People who put on this show where they're just talking, 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 but there's no connection to their own feelings, they could be scary because you don't actually know what's going on.
And
And
then
then
we
it's
spend
like,
a lot of time, consciously or subconsciously, like trying to register, like, what are they saying? What does that mean? What does that mean? And so I think, like, as a society, we've kind of lost our way because we are all wondering, what are people saying? What does it mean? I think we need to harness authenticity in a very real way right now.
oh my gosh, this is very exciting. It actually sounds like it's very hopeful for people who suffer severe anxiety or suffer with having years and years of not being able to really share their feelings, and it gives a framework that seems to be very logical and implementable to resolve those issues. Can
I've
you
had
give
a lot of
me, yeah,
success.
can
Yeah.
you give me one example of a case that you've of a person you've worked with and how it's helped?
Sure. I have a client right now, for example, who I think just said the other day that, she just feels like she knows herself so much better every time we work together. And I just thought, oh, thank you. And I try to create an environment that's safe and non-judgmental, and just, using this framework and this methodology to really get to know who you are and to understand, not in a you're good, bad, right, wrong, yes, no kind of way, but in a we can be closed or we can be open. And the understanding sort of physiologically how the heart works, what all these emotions are, where your emotions are, kind of keeping track of that, whether it's verbally through our work. There's opportunities to journal, to kind of chart and to reflect. There's breath work that we do that kind of brings us into the body. Because I'm also a yoga teacher, I work somatically as well, so I do a lot of breath work and yoga practices to kind of really feel into the body to help release some of these stuck emotions, because the issues are in the tissues, we say in yoga. So between, having these conversations and reflecting and then saying, okay, let's practice this breathing technique, there's a biofeedback tool that we use as well. So, like, hey, let's plug in, let's do the breathing, let's use the biofeedback, let's look at the heart rate, how it's varying. This is a coherent state, this is an incoherent state. Do you know what you were thinking at this point? Do you know what you had, that your thoughts kind of triggered a different feeling? So this practice of recognizing, what am I feeling? Is it a depleting emotion? Can I sustain more renewing emotions? What does that feel like? What is that? And how do I layer that into my life? So it's a little bit of a dance through the science, into the body, into spirituality, and really understanding intuition and, like,
Mm,
what those responses and how our body communicates with us, and then how
mhm,
we communicate in the world.
mhm. So it's about like discerning what it is you and what it is you want, what feels good, what isn't. It's about teaching people how to identify those different feelings. I think you're right. I think a lot of people don't know. They just don't know how to identify what their emotions are.
No, and it's, I always say, like, you have your high flying job, and this is your inside job.
Inside job. Wow. I
And
love it.
healing happens when you are willing. And
Mm,
that which made the body heals the body. And so if you have a willingness and a desire to shift through something, or whatever brings you to healing, your willingness and this framework and our work together will bring you to your next step. And
mm,
if you're willing to go there, then we will get it done.
mhm. So do you think I what I'm hearing is the first step you do is you offer people a safe space so they don't feel judged. So do you think all these patternings of emotional bypass, meaning bypassing the throat, bypassing expression and getting into the head, had to do with fear, had to do with some fear of judgment?
Yeah, what if they don't like me? What if it doesn't feel good? What if I cry? What if someone, like, what if if I show up who I am, like, what if somebody doesn't receive me? And the funniest thing about that kind of conditioning is that it is the opposite that is true. If only you could show up as who you are, then everyone will love you because you're you and I'm me, and we're all was meant to be who we are. We all are. That's our job, is to show up as we were designed to express in this life.
So basically, just the first step of offering that safety is already peeling away the necessity to bypass, because you're not going to judge them. If they say, I hate you, or I'm miserable in my marriage, or I don't like when that person calls me, and they could just share that and you're not
Oh,
judging them.
no, we work with it all. Yeah, I work with
Wow.
it.
Wow.
And I didn't even know how it would work on a Zoom, like in this kind of a format. And I have found that we can get it done. It does. It does really work. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Oh my gosh, Robyn, you have given me so much hope as someone who constantly intellectually bypasses with racing thoughts, um, growing up perfectionistic and high pressure job and high pressured, society and everything. So having the tools to be able to express my feelings and not having to go into that thought place, which is so uncomfortable, is amazingly refreshing. So I just want to thank you. How can people find you if they want to work with you?
Sure. My website will be in the description below, mywayom.com. You can reach out to me there. And there's also a tab where you can purchase the biofeedback tool if you're interested in looking into that. But I always like to touch base with my clients through email to make that first connection, have a consultation call, and then schedule from there.
Awesome. And do you work with all ages or certain ages only?
This work is really for adults.
Oh,
I have worked with children doing it as well, and I'm happy to. And with families, I support families through it. But this work is for adults.
okay. And
Yeah.
do you have like a certain demographic that you work with? Is it male, female? Is it non-binary? Is it a certain type of demographic then? Or
No
any?
one in particular. It's just that, wanting something different or recognizing that a change needs to be made, and really just the willingness. That's that's my criteria.
Great, the openness.
Yeah, willing to heal, willing to shift.
Thank you so much, Robyn. I'm so excited and welcome to the network.
It's great to be here, Adina, and thank you for this time. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.